So let's go ahead and get this retrospective going, but let's be organized about this. We'll go over the comic books first. We'll talk about some of the comic book highlights. And then we'll talk about some of the movie highlights related to comic books. And then we'll talk about some of the game highlights. So let's get to it already. Guys, I am still reeling over the fact that we got not one, but two giant omnibus volumes featuring all of the Marvel and DC superhero crossover stories. I thought this was an impossibility, right? Like, I thought that there was no way, in my lifetime at least, that I was going to get to see these. Like, a big collecting goal of mine has always been to try and chase down all of the crossover books, because I thought for sure I wasn't ever going to be able to just buy them openly and easily. But like, here we are. And they're fantastic, and they're beautiful, and they're huge, and they're full of extras and specials. And I just got this one yesterday, and I'm about halfway through this one. Life is good. If nothing else happened in comic books this year, other than this, I would be a very, very, very happy comic book fan. But that's the thing. More cool stuff happened this year. We also had Marvel Comics kind of softly relaunch the Ultimate Universe. Like, we got Ultimate Spider-Man, we got the Ultimates, we got Ultimate Fantastic Four and Ultimate X-Men and Ultimate Wolverine. We got so many of these books that just come back, and it's really cool. It's not a full retelling like the old Ultimate Universe was, but it exists. It's this really cool story that is still connected to everything that's going on in that universe. It's just so cool that it came back. It happened. And then on top of that, DC had their whole Absolute storyline going on with Absolute Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And those books are creating a huge splash in the scene right now. It is exciting. And then we had some really crazy crossovers, like TMNT had a Naruto crossover. That's crazy. So many interesting and bonkers and bizarre things happened this year, where a lot of things we thought would never happen, like the Ultimate Universe coming back, or these Marvel and DC crossovers coming back, they did. My mind is still blown over all of that. And now, while this has been a killer year for comics, I don't think I can quite say the same thing for comic book movies. In regards to movies, we kind of had a bad year for movies. We had Joker 2. I've never seen a movie that was so hyped up and so built up and people were so excited for, and then universally panned by everybody. And then we also had Madam Web came out this year, and that's been a whole masterclass in bad movie. And then we had Kraven the Hunter come out at the end of the year. We had Venom, the Venom 3, The Last Dance, that came out, and that was as okay as it got. Like, that was okay. But at the same time, we also had Deadpool and Wolverine, which just completely blew everybody's expectations out of the water. Just a great movie, but that's the thing. We had one good movie released in theaters this year. And that's not a lot. Though as far as movies are concerned, we can't forget the animated ones. And we had probably the most important superhero animated movie in years get released. It was the Crisis on Infinite Earths trilogy from DC Comics. And now the reason why I say this is probably the most important movie that was released this year, and why you should all keep an eye on how this movie is affecting things, is because of what the story of Crisis on Infinite Earths ultimately leads up to. If you've read the book, then you know what it leads up to. If you haven't read the book, let me go ahead and tell you. So basically, the whole of the multiverse was, by the end of that story, compressed into one single universe, one single story. Elements from everything were just kind of grandfathered into this new ongoing story. And that's what DC Comics as a whole, as far as their movies are concerned, is trying to do. They're trying to compress everything into one continuity. And James Gunn, when he took over the DC movies and DC outside media, outside of comic books, he said he wanted all of the animations, all of the TV shows, all of the movies, and all of the video games to combine and form one narrative storyline moving forward. But the fact that the Crisis on Infinite Earths movie, the animated trilogy, it starts in a lot of the same way with all of these different stories, and then they all mush together and create one continuity by the end of it. That speaks a lot to me, because in that movie we saw the end of the universe that started with Batman the Animated Series. We saw the end of the Teen Titans universe. We saw the end of Super Friends, that universe. Now we're moving onward, and we got Creature Commandos, which was the next animated project that come out after that, and it's its own continuity. It's different. And that's going to be really significant moving forward. So keep an eye on how that affects things. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about video games, because while comic book movies have kind of been diving down, comic book video games have been rising. We've been seeing some really exciting and interesting stuff come from that. The biggest thing I think we can talk about right now has to be related to Marvel Rivals. Marvel Rivals, I wasn't expecting it to be as big as it is, but it's huge, and it's blowing Overwatch 2 out of the water with just how many people are on it and playing it and enjoying it. And I think it's going to continue that way. That was nuts. But then also, we had Arkham Shadow surprise everybody. Because, like, I remember when it was first introduced, you remember this too. When Arkham Shadow was announced, and we're all like, oh sweet, this is great. We wanted an Arkham game. The most recent Arkham-ish game that we were offered wasn't really one. And then the second most recent Arkham-ish game that we were offered really wasn't one either. And now we have one. Yes, it has all of the same mechanics, but it's in VR? What? And nobody wanted to play it because it was stuck in VR, and it was even on just VR generally. It was exclusive to the Oculus. Who has an Oculus? But then it turned out to be fantastic, and like people like it. I haven't been able to play it, but like the fact that it's still on my radar, the fact that this VR game that nobody wanted to play is still on my radar. That speaks volumes to me about just how that game is actually performing. I would love to see it if in the next year or maybe couple of years we got we'll call it a remaster, even though it wouldn't be a remaster, that turned it into a third-person actual Arkham game and put it on consoles. I think that would sell like hotcakes, but I know that would also be a stupid amount of work, because you would have to basically build a whole new game out of that. What could you really keep? Some of the performance capture and the voice lines? Yeah, you couldn't keep much. But I would still like to see that. And it does mean that the future for Arkham games is still wide open. That was in doubt after Kevin Conroy died and Mark Hamill retired from his role as the Joker, like permanently and forever. And we kind of moved on to Arkham Knight, and we had a couple more Batman games happen in between there. So the fact that the Arkham games are still relevant enough to where we might be able to see more of them in the future speaks a lot to me. Not that this year also didn't have a lot of disappointments as far as video games were concerned, because it was also this year that we learned that Spider-Man 2 wasn't going to have any DLC associated with it. That bites, yo. I was excited for more Spider-Man 2, but we're not going to get that. There was also that huge leak that happened at Insomniac that revealed a lot of their prototype plans, especially, like, it revealed that there was DLC in development, but that's canceled. There was the multiplayer Spider-Man game, and that was canceled. They were working on a Venom game, a Venom spin-off game. That's probably canned as well. Wolverine got delayed by a lot, and there were layoffs and like wacky stuff happened with that, and that's really unfortunate. And it's unfortunate in a way that I just don't understand why they did it that way. Because all of the leaks showed off stuff that we were excited for. It showed off stuff that we wanted to buy. Everyone would line up to buy a Spider-Man multiplayer game. Everyone would line up to buy the DLC for Spider-Man 2. Everyone would line up to buy a Venom game. But it looks like those aren't happening, and I don't understand why they wouldn't. Also, the fact that Wolverine is probably like super delayed over this. The gameplay that we were shown, that was pirated and shown all over the internet, it was good gameplay. And like, we all understand it wasn't finished. We all understand that it needs some more polishing. We're okay with that. So I wonder why it would have to be delayed when, frankly, all we got was good news. Now, a lot of bad things came from the Insomniac hacking that happened earlier this year. It wasn't just game stuff that got released. It was a lot of employee documents that got released. And so I would say that for the company especially, it's kind of a net negative. But as far as PR is concerned, the inner PR agent in me says, this is the greatest thing that could have happened. Because now you've got everyone excited about the whole roadmap that is coming as far as your games are concerned. Everyone wants to see these. Everyone wants to buy them. Everyone's theory crafting. You couldn't buy that kind of publicity. And I just don't understand why these things got canceled. But you know what? Overall, I have to say that this year was fantastic. There was so much stuff that happened that I never imagined in my wildest dreams was going to happen. And it's been great. It's been such a wild ride, and I'm so pleased that I've been around for this year and I got to see what happened. It gives me a lot of hope for the future. I can see a lot of great things happening in the future for this. So go ahead and tell me in the comments below, like, what were your impressions of 2024? Like, what were the exciting things that you saw? And until next time, thank you for joining me. Have a great day, and remember to always be your best self. I have my notes somewhere here. Where did they go? I had notes. Notes. Now, where did the page go?